Hi, it's Tom again with T&B Tech. I have another video for you. It's been a few days since I posted the last video about the Fuji versus Sony thing. Haven't gotten a lot of response. Response I've gotten back has not been all that fulfilling. So here's another video of condensed a little bit more about the anomaly I'm seeing. Maybe someone can tell me what I'm doing wrong or what I'm not doing wrong, and we can go from there. Here it goes. I'm here to do a video about a peculiar difference between two modern digital cameras. Okay, what I have here on my left is a Sony A6000 camera, and on my right I have a Fuji XT-30. Both of them are pointed at the same scene, which is basically a piece of paper. And both of them are set at the equivalent of shutter priority. Right now it's set to 1/4 of a second. They're both set to 1/4 of a second. So they both can take a picture given this exposure. Let's do that right now with the Fuji, with the Sony. Review it, review, review. And we see the histograms look very similar because you expect them to. The scene is properly exposed and there's data. Everything looks really nice as you would expect. The difference and the problem comes into play when you start changing the shutter speed to improperly expose the scene. So I'm in shutter priority and I get into a scene which might be dimly lit and I change the shutter speed. You can see as I'm increasing the shutter speed here, the preview, the exposure preview is dimming, saying, hey, you're going to get a dark, underexposed image. In addition to that, the little indicators at the bottom tend to start blinking because telling me the metering system's detecting an underexposed image. Basically, at 4,000 of a second, the preview's black. And if I were to take an image at that exposure, well, you'd get what you'd expect to get. Severely underexposed image. It's a 4,000 of a second, f1.8, ISO 100, no data, histograms all the way to the left. That's what you would expect, right? And the camera tells me what to expect. So what about the Fuji? Well, here we are on the Fuji, properly exposed scene, shutter speed 1/4 of a second. Let's start cranking that shutter speed up. And right there, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but right there, I just went to 1/15 of a second. This indicator here, the aperture indicator, the f-stop indicator, is at 3.2. It went from white here to orange. And that is your only indication that something's wrong. That tells you that, hey, this exposure is wrong. But if I continue to crank this thing 60, 80, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 of a second, it still looks fantastic. Making me think, hey, this picture is going to look great at 4,000 of a second, f3.2, ISO 200. But if I take the picture, I'm in for a surprise. Because when I review it, it's black, just like the Sony is black, because they're essentially exposing the same scene with very similar settings. The difference is not the resultant output. The difference is the preview of that output prior to taking the shot. So that's what's different about it, and I don't understand for the life of me why this would be considered a feature, why Fuji decided to design their cameras this way, but in shutter priority, this is most apparent. On the Sony, I can crank that thing down and I start seeing something around 400th of a second. But if I go to a 400th of a second, that preview and that preview are distinctly different. I take the picture with the Sony, take the picture with the Fuji. Go to review it with the Sony. It looks a lot like the preview did. Looks a lot like the preview did. There is data there. There's a very dim image, but it's there. Let's see what the Fuji gives us. Well, golly gee willikers, it's exactly the same, or very similar to the Sony, but the preview was not. And that's the point of this video. Why is the preview not WYSIWYG in shutter priority for a Fuji when you are not properly exposed? Because you know what? The point of exposure preview is to tell you best as a camera can do, what the output resultant image is likely to appear like after you take the shot. The whole point of digital cameras, oh, no chimping, I don't have to chimp, I don't have to chimp. Well, look at this. This is a chimp fest. That's the problem, right? But the point is, when you're not actively disabling it, it should always be enabled. This is enabled all the time. The Sony always tells me what my image is likely to look like, unless I disable it. The Fuji does not do that in this mode under these circumstances. And I would like to know why. That's it. Thanks a lot.